The girl basically just broke up with me because I wasn't Christian enough. And like I thought we had a great thing going. And one night we're like at our spot, like hanging out, and she's just like, "Yeah, I just don't think you like really, fuck with Christ." And I'm like, "Okay." Like for sure. But like this is cool. And she's like, "Yeah, but like I need someone that fucks with Christ." And that was crazy, man. That's I'll never get over that. We are we're coming in, we're starting the show. It's hard, begrudging, no one wants to start. How do you start? We're here, it's me, Creme Brulee. Welcome to, I'm not going to try and guess what episode of the Creme World podcast. We're at a number of episodes where I've lost count, though. So we're at a good number. Y'all are here. I'm your host, Creme Brulee. It's a Monday. It's MLK Day. This one's a day late. This is the first one that hasn't been dropped pretty much the same time. And you don't care. I don't care. Black people, I'm black, and it's MLK Day. I deserve MLK Day. I would say off, but I am working in this capacity on it. Whatever. I get to do my art. I got to be a day late, a buck short. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe, hit like, follow me on socials at crembrule2d, leave a review, all the kind stuff. If you like the show, please just do one of those things, and it will mean a lot to me and the growth of the show. It's 2016 week. Everyone, not for some reason, nostalgia. I don't know if this has happened in a year before where just like everyone just becomes immediately obsessed with the year a decade prior. But that's the theme for this, but that's what's happening, at least on social media right now. And in honor of that, this is going to be an episode where I talk a lot about where I was in 2016, because it's a very different life than I live now. I definitely wasn't on the path I took to get where I'm at, which is like, I guess there's not really a conventional path to stand-up comedian. I did drop out of college, which is probably along the most conventional path. But I'm going to talk about being in a Christian fraternity, which I don't think you would think is I mean, I guess if you listen to this or like know me enough to know how religious my upbringing was, you would know. But I don't think that's a thing a lot of people would guess about me, that I was in a Christian fraternity. I was in a couple I was a frat bro, guys. That was my past life. I've been like 18 different niggas. I've lived, I'd say like 7 different lives in, totality. So we're going to review one of those. I guess I wanted to start because I listened to all of them, and I listened to the last one, and not that I, begrudge anything I say in that episode, but I listened back, and for my like reasons you should keep going, I was basically just like, listen, I'm a comedian and I'm gonna use that to change the world. So do whatever you do. But I don't even think I said to do whatever you do. I would like to circle back and be like, hey, if you listened to the way I talked about wanting to take what I do and use it to benefit the revolution, and my ultimate goal is for you, like, to communicate that I think you should do that with whatever it is you do, whether you garden or you cook or you are a musician. I think there's definitely ways you could leverage that into something positive in this political moment. And if nothing else, that can be motivation for you to press on when things seem very bleak. Also, I meant to do this at the top, because it is MLK Day after all. It won't be when you're listening to this, but I am recording on our father, Dr. Martin Luther King's day. So this is take I just remembered I had. A take I want to get off. And I don't even want this to be perceived as a take, because I don't want to come across as trying to tamp down the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King. But I do think it's the funniest doctor. Not the funniest doctor, but he's a doctor of the Bible. You know what I mean? It's a fishy. It's a sus doctorate. I'm not gonna act like there wasn't, I'm sure, intense study and coursework or like a thesis. I'm not acting like being familiar with the Bible it takes no intellectual capacity. That's not what I mean to say. But being a doctor of the Bible is it's a really loose interpretation of doctor. Why did I start like this? Please, Dr. King's great, by the way. I think I want to make sure that's clear. But in terms of today, the anecdote I wanted to get to, I was just at the convenience store buying my government mandated podcast Red Bull takes a sip. And the person checking out before me, and the checkout person was white. The person checking out directly in front of me was white. He gave him normal goodbye, thanks for shopping. And then he gave me the goodbye, thanks for shopping. Hey, happy MLK Day. And at first I was like, man, because it feels like being profiled, not like profiled, but just like, that's not equality, you know what I mean? That's not, the initial reaction I had to that was to be upset, but don't tell white people happy MLK Day. Yeah, that should just, it's for us. I get pissed off. I used to do a joke about how I was pissed off that, because it was after like the first or second Juneteenth, and white people got it off, and I remember I had to work on it. And I remember getting off of work and just seeing like, you would have thought it was 4th of July in Portland, the way people were out and having days and just like getting wasted. And it's Portland, of course, so these people are all white. And that really pissed me off. Like, you know what? Like, clearly, fuck that. So I have like a similar feeling about Martin Luther King Day, where it's like, I don't want white people to have the day off. You know what? That's not what, it doesn't feel special to us if everyone has it off. You know what I mean? And I think Martin Luther King Day and Juneteenth should feel special to us. Also, during Black History Month, white people shouldn't get weekends, maybe. How about that? Vote for me, 2026. Am I old enough yet? No, I think I have to be like 34. Make no mistake, when I'm old enough, I will be making a strong push for the ballot box. No, I won't. Okay, so let's jump back into a time machine to the year of our Lord, 2016. Where was I at the year 2016? Well, a little about my journey. After college, after high school, I got into the University of Missouri. To keep it short, I drank and, self-destructed my way through my first year in college, kind of pinnacling me. The peak of the self-destruction was me getting arrested during at the end of my, like, literally the last week of my first semester of freshman year, and that really, like, changing how my second half of the second half of the first year went. Obviously, I had to move. I had to drop out of the frat I was in, all this stuff. So, like, everything changed. And I was super depressed. And it was probably the most depressed I ever was in my life. And so I tried to drop out of school. I did, for all intents and purposes, drop out of school. And my mom, being a mom, was like, basically over the course of a summer, slowly talked me into going to this private Christian college in Nashville, Tennessee, called Lipscomb University. I think I was at like there was nothing better for me to do. You know what I mean? It was like that or work at my mom's place or get like a job. And mentally, I definitely wasn't there. I'd rather not live with my mom at 19. Yeah, especially after already tasting a bit of the freedom that was going to college. So despite like my better judgment and what I thought would clearly be like a weird environment, I ended up going to this Christian college. It was I think the two ways I thought to describe it were like it was like a Christian sleepaway camp for 4 years, or it was like going to like a very cool high school but being in college, if that makes sense. Like it had and I don't want to denigrate Lipscomb University. I had generally a great experience, and I got treated very well by a lot of people there, and there was a lot of really good people that basically are friends with my mom that work in different capacities. That are the reason I got in there, so like shout out to them, and nothing negative. I mean, I'm not gonna say nothing negative. I mean, nothing negative besides it being what it is. You know what I mean? There's a Christian college. For most of the people I imagine will listen to this, going to a Christian college, a private Christian college in Nashville, sounds kind of wonky. And the Nashville of it all, I will say, like, I really loved Nashville as a city. Um, it's not it's diverse isn't the right word, but it's got like a lot of different vibes. There's obviously the like touristy, like stereotypical, like Broadway downtown Nashville, where they have like the pedal bars, the bike bars. I don't remember what they're called, and like the bachelorette parties, and the honky tonk, and the boots, and all that. But it also has like cool, like underground and indie art and music scenes, and there's people doing cool stuff in like fashion and all different kinds of things going on in Nashville. So I thought that was cool. But going to a Christian college, it was weird because it was definitely a lot of like I was at a private Christian school for most of my life, so it's not like I was too far off from these people, but it was a lot of people who've gone to small private Christian like upper class schools for most of their life. It was definitely mostly white, and like 99% of the diversity there was because they had people on sports teams. My roommate, my first year was black, and he played soccer. Shout out to him. Yeah, and so finding my way socially there was like it definitely took a while. I had friends, but like my friend groups at first really revolved around like the the just in retrospect really immature relationships. I was gonna say heinous, but I want to be respectful to the women I dated in college. But there were some really trash relationships, and I'll take most of the blame. I was emotionally at a very weird place, and extremely insecure, and extremely in need of validation, to the point where I really strung some women along in some really immature and titanium bozo kind of ways. I just invented titanium bozo, patent pending on titanium bozo kind of ways. I remember there was this one girl I dated. I'm not going to say, I don't feel self-important enough to be like anything I did was like the biggest thing in someone's life or like change them. But there was one girl I broke up with, and then like a month later tried to like start talking to again, and she was a whole different person. She was like listening to rap music and smoking weed and going to hang out with kids at like other colleges, and that was the first time I experienced that, where like I don't know if you've ever broke up with someone and all of a sudden they're like immediately turn into a different person, and you're like, what? Well, do I need to apologize? I don't know. Like, I'm not saying rap music and smoking weed aren't tight. I eventually ended up doing a lot of both of those things, but that is what it is. So I kind of duded around in weird relationships and friend circles, parallel and intertwined within those relationships, and then I can't even remember like how I got interested in doing Greek life. I think I just met, I guess, yeah, it feels like I met a couple of guys. So Greek life at this private Christian school, there weren't called fraternities. They were all called, and sororities, they were all called social clubs. for whatever reason. But ostensibly, they did the same thing. They just weren't like the nationally recognized fraternities and sororities, but they were. The one I was in was Sigma Iota Delta, aka SID, and yeah, I don't remember. I think I just like met a couple dudes who were like in it, and they were like, yeah. When the like rushing season started, they were like, yeah, you should come to our information meeting, whatever, whatever. I did that, and I was like, oh, these people seem. This is like the dorkiest thing to say, as a 30-year-old. But they were like the coolest guys on campus, you know what I mean? And I was like, oh, these guys are all cool and like funny and they like stuff I like and yada yada. They were just, as far as like a tribe or like a genuine close knit community as I was gonna find, in Nashville. This was pretty much it, and there was a lot of people from my area in Atlanta and all this other overlapping stuff. So I was like, yeah, this seems cool. So I rushed, and the like interview vetting process for the social club is again in retrospect really dorky. Basically, the like second round, they do like multiple rounds of like, you get invited, like a lot of people get invited to the first whatever, and then like less people get invited to the second whatever, and I can't even fully remember the second whatever. I think it was just like a hang at the guy's, like the president's house. But the first one was like they took probably like 40, 50 of us bowling, and like 2 by 2 brought us out to these cars where they basically like blindfolded us, and I might get hit with a cease and desist for revealing this information, but I can't imagine would ever be a single crossover or like that of 7. Anyway, I don't remember if they blindfolded us for this, but there was a lot of blindfold. There will be blindfolding later. And yeah, they basically just like fucked with us, and it's so funny because it's like in the position you're in where you're like this young kid who's like really trying to impress these much older kids ostensibly. There's this veneer that they had of like being serious and like intimidating, and again the intimidating part will come into play later. But in retrospect, they were just just like asking us fucked up shit, not like insanely fucked up shit, but just asking us weird shit to see if we could like hang. But as like a potential whatever, you're like, oh my god, this is serious, and you're just like taking it so serious, and they're like playing with that. On the other side, it was very fun, and I get it. But yeah, I just look back on it and be like, wow, I can't believe we were all like shitting our pants. So whatever happens at the next invite only hang, I make it through there. I think we had to do like, it was some sort of like quiz or like a talent show. Was it a talent show? Anyway, I remember it being something that was embarrassing, definitely. And embarrassment would be a big part of the whole pledging process, again, which we'll get to. But did that. I don't remember how we found out, but eventually you find out you make it, and you're like, yay, hooray, we made it into pledging for the thing. You're not actually in the club until you pledge, so I guess you got like an invitation to pledge, and pledging was, I really had to self-censor myself, because I'll be honest, I wanted to say the R word, but it was the most, I don't know, man. So like I pledged in like a real fraternity, and like, in like a real, I went to University of Missouri, like a real SEC, whatever you want to say, big Southern, Midwestern, whatever, just big school fraternity thing. The pledging is like violent and earnestly trauma inducing, and I, that's a whole different episode. I think it should be illegal, and I think a lot of people do, but no one's gonna say that. But what happened at the Christian fraternity was just like they tried their best to embarrass you and like degrade you, and that was pretty much it. Which some of us, some of us had thick skin, and some of us were like, you know. The whole thing is based on fear and like growing closer with your pledge class, and the hell week of pledge week. Like pledging only lasted a week at the Christian thing, and during that whole week, me and I think my pledge class was 12 people. We all had to wear matching outfits, pretty much as we could be together. Basically, no one was ever allowed to be alone unless you were in class, and you had to like organize ways to like pick each other up from class and throughout the day, with like escalating levels of like and escalating levels of embarrassmentness. What's the word for that? And escalating levels of shame or embarrassment. I'm just gonna circle it again. But the level, here we go. The level of embarrassment of like the day-to-day tasks escalated throughout the week, and each of us had like basically we were on call for someone, for one of the members of the club, and had to like bring them. It was just like bitch duty for them. That part was like if you've seen like that part's similar to like regular fraternity stuff, where like you see the pledges like wearing a banana costume or taking or holding one of the members all their stuff or being like a pack mule kind of stuff. So just a lot of that kind of stuff. But at night, they basically would like take us to different places, and so we had these like books with like all the history of the club in it, and they basically like take us places and like isolate us and like not blind. I mean, sometimes blindfolding, and then sometimes just like face us into a wall, and basically just have people come behind us and like I'm getting hit with the NDA. Quiz us on the history of the club and various like the motto and like the founding members' names and like all this really specific niche information that I'm shocked I don't have a lick of in my brain anymore, frankly. We did that. I mean, they would quiz us and like just degrade us and be like, you don't know, you're a piece of shit, you're not getting in, blah blah blah. But it was like 30 dudes, and they would like they were like getting drunk and like fake mad and like just kind of mentally fucking with us, like turning us against each other and shit. In retrospect, again, and having been on the other side of it, all very funny. But again, being in the scenario of like pledging, truly like some of the most terrifying, grueling mental labor a privileged 19-year-old can go through. But that's basically it. It's like, what's the most we could fuck with a privileged 19-year-old? That they basically found it. And it just being mean about the fact that they weren't in the club yet, pretty much. Which is like all you can hold over them. Like that's what you know what I mean? I started cracking up because I was looking through pictures from 2016, and oh my god, I was dating a girl while I was pledging. One of these awful relationships I mentioned, and she texted me. She's like, oh, they're gonna kill you, but she's like basically talking about that fact that I was so like stretched thin. Like we hardly got any sleep, and we were doing all this mental, dealing with all this mental fuckery all day for like several days. And she's like, "They're gonna kill you," and I was like, "At least I'll be dead and in Sid." And I don't know why I screenshotted that. That's the crazy, like texting it crazy, screenshotting it and being like, "Yeah, sending this to the boys." Only for me to laugh at 10 years later. It was also crazy. So at the end of pledging, there was like a hell night where basically they do the same. They take us out to a farm and do the same like type of pledging, the quizzes and whatnot, but they institute a lot of physical challenges. Really like truly hours of physical challenges. Yeah, that was definitely the night that was like most similar to like actual real school pledging at a real fraternity, because like there was no violence and they weren't like making us fight. I remember one of my at my real fraternity, one of the nights of pledging, they were like, "We don't really feel like actually like hurting you guys tonight, but you do have to play tackle football." Like like you have to like play like hard tackle football. I remember like a kid got sent to the hospital, and that's like, "All right, we're calling the game." That's what I'm talking about. It's just that was an easy night where they made us, because you can, anyway. So that was the worst night there. And then we were all cold and sad, and then they were like, "All right, you guys are in," and then we were in, and we all got a bunch of I don't know, shirts, and we got to at the end it's funny because it's like, "Hey, sorry for fucking," like everyone else, you're like in the club now, so they're like, "Hey, sorry for fucking with you, but now we all hang out all the time," and you're like, "Okay." And you definitely like, there's always like dynamics, I felt like, that like never change. Like there's some dudes who are like, "Yeah, I just never after that fucked with you." Like there's a lot of, it's supposed to build inter-club unity, and it builds unity within the pledge classes, because like you all have to go through this thing together, but it really makes all the other people a strong resentment. But it was sick. Being in the club, being in the club was, at that point it was easy. It was just like having fun, wearing the shirts, because there's these big shirts with the Greek. That's what you really do it for. The clubs get big shirts with Greek letters, and on like Thursday or shit, you wear them, and everyone's like, "Yeah, we're tight." Swear to God, in retrospect, that was like the biggest thing, because it's all social climbing, like, just the people I got to. It feels so weird to be like, I started getting to hang out with like cooler people and stuff, but like I did get to hang out. Just people I liked more, and not really. I didn't really start having better relationships. I think I started just I just started being toxic to prettier women. Or I guess more affluent women, which take what you will. I remember one of the biggest heartbreaks I've ever had in my entire life was that year. This girl basically just broke up with me because I wasn't Christian enough. And like, I thought we had a great thing going. And one night we're like at our spot, like hanging out, and she's just like, "Yeah, I just don't think you like really, fuck with Christ." And I'm like, "Okay." Like, for sure, but like, this is cool. And she's like, "Yeah, but like, I need someone that fucks with Christ." And that was crazy, man. That's I'll never get over that. Fuck you, Jesus. This is why I'll never come back. This is why I'm a nihilist. The other best parts of being in Greek life, basically they'll do like, every club did its like big fundraiser, and ours, because our mascot was the goats, we threw this music festival called Goat Fest. That was a highlight for me, because me and like two of my bros got to go pick up like 12 baby goats, and then just walk with them around campus all day. And that was, to this day, one of the most fun days of my life. I don't know if you've ever been in charge, like not in charge, but this farm is like, yeah, you guys have done the thing for a bunch of years. Maybe it was a family friend of one of the guys in the club, just as like put the goats in the truck and was like, have our goats back later, and we did. But it was also like, man, you just gave like a bunch of 20-year-old dudes just animals to take to their college. So that was sick. There's one, I don't remember which club did did this as a fundraiser, and the next two things I'm gonna put to juxtapose the variety of experiences that were offered through Greek life. So one of the things, one of the big events of the year, I don't even know if they do it anymore or if that was like the first year they did it in some years. But anyway, they just had a Greek life fight night where they just put a real boxing ring in the gym and gave us all like boxing equipment, but we had like headgear and stuff. But besides that, real boxing equipment, and we all just not you basically and someone, and like it was only the first year people in Greek life, so you and someone else in another club just agreed to fight, and you just fought in front of the entire school. And I was crazy because it was like just full. There was no. They just let us box in the school gymnasium, and not like people got hurt, but it was like, I remember I fought this dude, and I don't like, this is probably the closest I've ever actually been to being in a real fight. It was a fight, but it was like headgear boxing. Besides that, it was full on throwing them, and I won. And trust me, this is in no way to put myself up as tough. I do not think about this, but I won via TKO. The dude was bigger than me. I felt great. The secret was, if you're doing a fight, an amateur fight at all, like a one-off, like I'm just gonna fight this one dude one time, just conditioned. Because if two people can't fight, the person who could stand up and throw punches for longer is gonna win. And that's what I just, for a month, was just like, I'm just gonna run for as long as I can every day. Got in there, first round, we were just pummeling each other. Second round, he was gassed, beat the shit out of him. I do think it makes me sound cool. I do. I do hold on to this as a point of pride that I want to fight 10 years ago to this year. I should call. I might follow him on Instagram. Should I follow him on Instagram? I'll let you know next week if I follow the dude I fight on Instagram and just be like, hey, 10 years, let's run it back. Nah, I don't know. He might be bigger now. I feel like if that happened to me, I would be bigger than I am now. You know what I mean? Like, I stay in good shape, but I think like if I had lost a fight in front of the entire like girls, losing a fight at 20 in front of girls is pretty much the worst way you could spend an evening. Like, so yeah, again, I don't like to feel too self-important, but that would have changed my trajectory in terms of how I approached physical fitness, at least. Again, now it's to juxtapose. So they let us have a fight night, and also the biggest event in Greek life was this thing called Singorama. Man, Singorama was sick, man. I'm not gonna hold y'all. Basically, all the clubs, a boys club and a girls club, paired up, and you had to basically just put on a musical. That was it. And all of the musical, like, it was there's 3 teams, and there was a theme. I do not remember what the theme was. We did like a lot of retro songs. I remember we did, we also did a modern song. Anyway, we definitely did Electric Light Orchestra, Mr. Blue Sky. We definitely did Prince, 1999, and we definitely did. We did one hip hop song from the time, and there was more too. Those are just the ones I remember, and it was for like probably like a month, every day. Like you just had a 2 hour rehearsal for a musical. Like we fought each other and then like, all right, now that we fought, let's all lock in for the school musical that we all do. This is why I said it was like going to like a cool high school, but you're in college, because it was like making everyone, not making everyone, but having like all the coolest quote unquote people at the school put on a musical. Okay. And again, it was sick. Our club lost, and that's, I still think about that. I still think about losing Singorama because I don't think we should have, and we definitely all had conspiracy theories as to why we lost. I don't know. I think it was racism. What else about Sid? I think the biggest, besides like the events, the like most impactful, like the only people I still keep in touch with from that time, like we don't keep in touch as much as we like follow each other on Instagram and like positively respond to each other's stories from time to time. But like that's keeping in, is that keeping in touch? Be real, like, earnest question, is it keeping in touch? Do you consider it keeping in touch if you just text somebody? Not even. Okay. Do you consider keeping in touch if you just have a conversation via Instagram story replies for several years? Because that's infrequent replies over 7 years. Because in that way, I'm keeping in touch with a lot of people where it's like my mom will be like, how are they doing? And I'll be like, we talk 4 times a year via 1 or 2 messages via Instagram DM, but I think we're still locked in and they still seem cool. Anyway, so the only people I do still keep in touch with and we're locked in with, because I mean, all them niggas live in Nashville or the East Coast generally. I don't know if anyone lives out this way, not to my knowledge. Yeah, but I just met a lot of really good dudes. My homie Jalen, who is the fucking DJ for like the Tennessee Titans. Anything that happens in Nashville, downtown, that nigga Jalen was DJing and is DJing for it. And it's so tight because that nigga was DJing in college and we would just play fucking Madden in his room every day after school and talk about music. And I love that nigga. He's producing music too now. I need to tap back in with him. My best friend, I had a lot of best friends, but like my homie, the biggest reason I'd say I had like a positive experience, at least that year, kind of. I mean, I ended up dropping out after that year too, because I was like, all right, I kind of realized I liked doing music, and that was truly enough for me to be like, I don't need to lose $40,000 a year if I'm gonna spend most of my free time smoking weed and making beats. And so I dropped out again. But I did have a really good year, and that's because I met my roommate, Will Temple. I said that like people were about to know who it was. There's a kid named Will Temple. You know, not to get sentimental, but I talked about like last week when I was talking about my friend who passed away, about like just like how important those early people who like believe in you and like see you as cool are in your life. And it was definitely Will for me, man. Similarly, like he just thought I was really cool at a time when I didn't think I was that cool, and like he was like Mr. Lipscomb. Like there was a high school that fed into this college, respect, but he went to the high school, and his family did a lot, and he was like I think he's a football coach at that high school now. He was like a football star at the high school. He was just like one of the coolest kids at school. Like everybody knew who he was. He was super kind to everyone, but he was also like a lovable shithead. I The most lovable shithead, man. I don't know why I decided to bring this up, but he ruined that nigga would just leave dip cups everywhere, and like by the grace of God, I've never done the thing that you hear nasty stories about, But God, I could never live with someone who dipped again. Um, but that was my dog, and anything I did socially that year, it was because he was like, "Yo, I'm doing this thing. You want to come?" Or he like vouched for me. Um, and I was tight, and I love that nigga, and he was a dork. Um, that was is that enough on? Do I have anything else to talk about in terms of Lipscomb? We had a formal where we went to the beach and did a bunch of gravity bongs in a hotel room. That's pretty run of the mill though, right? I guess the segue is one of the other dudes I met in my pledge class was this awesome. I can't remember was it Buttry? I think his last name was Buttry. He's really cool kid named Cole. CB Cole Buttrey, he was tight. He was like this. He is like this like dorky looking Nashville kid who was like a bowling ace and like kind of like just big glasses, bowl cut, kind of scrawny. But that dude was my nigga, and he liked music. We were just really connected over music, and he was really into fashion and just like hip hop. He was the most into black people stuff, you know what I mean? And I was also into black people stuff. I don't know if he still makes music, but he made music at the time too, and the shit kind of went too. I remember. I don't know. I shout out to him, but what was I gonna say? I remember he showed me Caroline by Amine. I remember being in his car and listening to that and being like, "Yo!" I remember he showed me. I mean, I don't think. Y'all remember Khaled? Where did that nigga go? Anyway, he showed me "Location" by Khaled, and that was like the first Khaled song. And that nigga went on a run after that. I don't think he's kind of like disappeared from like just dropping several hits a year, and that's probably like what he wants. And shout out to him. But it definitely seemed like, at least in the pop space, I think it was about to be popping for a minute. Anyway, I mentioned we also listened to Views for the first time together. Damn, we listened to a lot of great music that year, and there was a lot of great music that year. So, in that, with that in mind, Cole got us tickets to see the last show of the first Lil Yachty tour in Atlanta. Lil Yachty's 2016, obviously, boat show tour. This was the first tour Lil Yachty did, coming on the heels of the success of Minnesota in one night. If you're online or in your 20s in 2016, you probably remember one night in Minnesota. Just really like, oh my God. I guess we'll get into it, but that era, I don't want to be a victim of nostalgia, and I'll just say that before I launch into a diatribe fueled by that in. I didn't like that. We're not going to call nostalgia that in. I was trying to figure out a cool way to say it. But 2016, that was the last, I don't know how to say it. That was the last peak. I don't want to say that's the last good year, because that's not true at all. But that's kind of, at least I think it's fair to say that's the last class of star rappers we got. That's when you get Uzi, Yachty, Playboy Cardi, 21 Savage. Who else came out that year? Kodak. I guess that was Travis's. That was when Birds came out for Travis, so it wasn't his first, but it was still Travis on the come up. I think Antidote that year? No, Antidote couldn't have been that year. But Goosebumps was probably that year. Amine dropped Caroline that year. Just a really, I think, Uzi. I said Uzi already. Amigos. I don't know if Culture was that year. Was Culture that year or the year after? Anyways, they're all coalescing. All their careers are getting big around the same time. I'd say it's the last. 2016 was the start of the last. I don't want to say the last era of hip hop, but the most recent era of hip hop stars, like all were here at this time. Like even Tyler was here at this time. Tyler, Travis, Cardi. One of them you could say is the biggest quote unquote rapper right now. All of them really got started or started to get momentum or just that whole sound, the trap. I don't think it's like the first generation of trap. It's like trap V3 or 4. 2 Chainz around this time too, making a comeback. But yeah, and so we got tickets to see this Lil Yachty concert. The last show of the Boat Show tour, his first tour, like I said, and it was, I think, in terms of like, yeah, I think it's got to be the best concert I've ever been to, because not only do you have Yachty, his first show in Atlanta pretty much ever, especially at least after, becoming a star. His first show in his hometown. The show was on his birthday, and over the course of the concert, Uzi made an appearance, Offset made an appearance, Dram made an appearance, and brought out Yachty, the platinum plaque they had for Broccoli. Offset, Uzi, Yachty, Dram, Offset. The encore was surprisingly by Lil B, which was, you don't expect to see. It's the first and only time I've ever seen Lil B. You don't really expect to see Lil B anywhere. I mean, obviously if he's at a show, but like at the point where people were coming out, we're like, oh, cool. It's like Atlanta. It's like Yachty collaborators, other Atlanta artists, and then they're like, all right, we got a special surprise for y'all, because Yachty was, and I assume is, a huge fan of Lil B. If you don't know who Lil B is like, it's very appropriate that he was brought out for that, because Lil B is weirdly the blueprint for like internet rap fame. If you don't know, Lil B was like, I don't even know how to ask. You're gonna have to look up a YouTube video, because meme rapper is incorrect. Lil B was a rapper who was just different, just different. I don't know if he's still putting out music, but definitely an enigmatic, definitely a very idiosyncratic, definitely a one of a kind, uber influential artist. And they're like, and we got a special surprise for y'all. And Yachty didn't even know who it was. And Lil B came out, and then they turned Yachty around, and Yachty was freaking out. And Lil B performed, and everyone in the crowd was cooking with all their intensity. If you don't know cooking, gosh, eat that like wonton soup, Ellen DeGeneres, that kind of stuff. And it was the coolest concert ever, because, in the way I talked about like that time being like such a distinct period of all these artists like ascending at the same time from like generally the same location. It felt like that was present in like that, like you could feel that the entire energy of the culture and the scene and the whatever you want to, the culture of the scene. You felt like all that energy at one show, and it was a coming together of a lot of different sounds, and it was a celebration of Atlanta and Yachty, and it was awesome. And it was like, I talked about how like later I ended up leaving college because I just got so into making beats and stuff, and I think that was such seeing, because like all those dudes are my like Offset, Uzi, not Uzi, but Offset, Yachty. I guess there was one more person who was there, I can't remember, but all these like Atlanta era, like Cardi, etc., rappers from like 2016, those guys are all my age and from like where I was. And like during the Yachty concert, a dude I went to school with was like, during like the encore performance where like he had the whole crew on stage, like a dude I went to school with was on stage, and like I gave him my phone to take a picture with Uzi. But it was like, it felt so like, damn, like these are my peers, like not like literally in terms of like art, we're not in the same realm, but like, damn, people from where I'm from who are my age, who like look like me, are doing like really cool, awesome things in hip hop. And ultimately, like that's I don't think I was aware of it at the time. And I think this is probably the first time I'm even like putting it together for myself. Thank you, having a podcast. But yeah, I think that was for me like, oh, I don't want to be in business school. I want to do what these guys are doing. And that put me on the path ultimately to where I am now, where I am. I don't know. I'm definitely not retired from music. I had that thought today. I'd be like, am I semi-retired? Like I put out a song last year. I'm not making music because I'm in a different house setup and I got a lot of other shit going on. You don't care. But I'm not retired. But it was just, crazy to think about. It's been 10 years for me, I guess, also, making beats, which is crazy in itself. Where are my platinum plaques at? I'll ask you that, Offset. Where are my plastic platinum? Why am I asking Offset? What is happening? And I guess the other last like great memory I have from 2016 is also due to one of my brothers in Sigma Iota Delta, because I'd gone to Bonnaroo the year before with my at the time best friend, and we were gonna go again. But me and my homie Hayes from Nashville were like, hey, let's all link up, go together. And it's really fun to go with a big group. That was the first, I think ultimately only time I ended up going with a big group. If you don't know, Bonnaroo is a big music festival in Manchester, Tennessee, an hour or two from Nashville, an hour or two from Atlanta. And personally, I think it's the coolest thing that exists on the planet. I think the past couple years, they've been having some weird stuff going on, but I'm not super tapped in because I'm 3,000 miles away. But I went 3 years growing up while I was in college pretty much the whole time. And I like to this day, those are like some of the best experiences of my life. If you've never been to a camping music festival in the middle of nowhere, and that's not your bag, I get it if that's not your bag, but if that is your bag, or you think maybe that might be my bag, but I've never invested, try it, man. Just like it's you feel for just a couple of days what we're supposed to feel like. I think where it's just like you're walking around, you're kind of grazing, you're kind of cooking in a primitive maybe way. There's a lot of downtime where you're just hanging out at round camp or walking around, sitting somewhere with your friends. Like I think the time friendship grows. I think it was like anyways, friendship, like you become friends, like definitely doing cool shit together and having experiences, but also like friendship, I think a lot of like tightness, closeness, whatever grows when you are doing not shit together. And I think there's, while also being a lot of time to be like, yeah, we're fucking at the Who stage, seeing Avicii. There's also a lot of like, yeah, we're just trying to kill 2 hours. Let's walk around and see if we could find some shrooms. And those experiences are like equally, I think, what makes the experience great. There's a lot of community. There's a lot of going around other camps being like, hey, do you guys have this? Or being like, hey, do you guys want to trade drugs and stuff like that? Obviously, they're just doing a lot of drugs. I did a lot of drugs during my time there, and I would do them again. And I saw a lot of really amazing acts over all my years there. And just in terms of everyone I saw over the 3 years there, it's gonna be hard to remember, but like the ones that stick out the most for me right now, Billy Joel, fucking who else? Ooh, I'm done after Billy Joel. Billy Joel, Hozier, Tame Impala, Vince Staples, Tyler the Creator. I think I saw Major Lazer there. Wow, because there's headliners, so I'm forgetting a lot of like really big people. Let me just see who the headliners for this year were. Tame, Macklemore. I think I did see Ellie. I've seen Ellie Goulding like 3 times, low key. Anyway, I saw a lot of really great bands over all the 3 years I went there. But But 2016 in particular, I'm just looking at the lineup right now and gonna say everyone I definitely saw. Lizzo was the first act we really saw. This was Lizzo pre Lizzo blowing up. And even pre Lizzo blowing up, I was someone who was so happy to see Lizzo blow up because I saw her before she blew up, where she like just had the flute and she was like, it wasn't just the flute, but she was just pure energy and bravado and musical talent and charisma. And I remember being really blown away by that show. I also saw Vince Staples. Vince Staples, probably that was like maybe the most insane rap show I've ever seen because I remember like we just opened up huge like actual mosh pits. Like I think what the kids do now what the kids do now is cute. But like some actual like open up the pit mosh pits to like well it was summertime '06, so like lift me up, Senorita, lift me up, jump off the roof. That great Vince album, great show. Who else did I saw? I saw Macklemore. Low key, like I said about someone else, I've seen Macklemore like 3 or 4 times. It's okay. Tame Impala. Tame Impala played at like midnight, and I took like 2 tabs of acid, and one of my friends tried to go to the show with me, but while we were waiting in line, he literally, I've never seen this before, he fell asleep standing up. And I was like, bro, are you asleep? And he's like, yo, yeah, I'm going to head back to camp. And I was like, get out of here, man. But yeah, I took a bunch of acid and experienced that by myself. And it was right after Currents. And that was, I don't even remember a lot of it, but I remember, like, I don't know if I ever have experienced, am I explaining doing drugs? We're an hour in. You're here for the hang. One of the biggest blasts of euphoria I've ever felt in my life when they played Eventually and like shot out like streamers and all this stuff, and it was like, oh my god. And then I think just like went around. They had a silent disco that was sick. At nighttime they had a lot of cool shit. I think this is also the year I saw, who was it? They do Doses and Mimosas. Cherub. Man, I'm not 100%. I think this was this year. Cherub played a set at like 5 a.m. and they were like shooting off pyrotechnics, right? And this is for like the geekers, you know what I mean? This is a show. We're all up. You're just dancing for, because you have to. Like if you're up at 5 a.m. for a show, you are, and we were the geekers. But it was so crazy because they're like shooting off pyrotechnics, and like the fire department pulled up and it was like, you can't be shooting off pyrotechnics at like 5 a.m. And I don't know if I've ever seen like a fireman like talking to the DJ and the DJ being like, it was cool. That was sick, man. Cherub, they were kind of like the mayors down there, as was Chance the Rapper at a point. I think Chance was here this year. I don't think he performed, but I know he was here. Sunday, I remember Third Eye Blind played, and if you've never like, a Sunday afternoon of a music festival is a perfect day for Third Eye Blind, because that's the day everyone's like, all right, I gotta go home tomorrow. Like, it's time to try and get my bearings as a human being a little bit. There's no more Avicii at the Who stage. And at Bonnaroo, they name all the stages the Who, the What, and like the Where stage. And it's intentionally because they know you're on drugs and they fuck with you. And I just think that's a fun thing they do. Oh yeah, I also saw the Internet and Post Malone and O Wonder actually, and Big Grams. So the Internet, I wasn't even hip to the Internet at this point, but it was after I was on before Hive Mind, whatever the one before Hive Mind was, the orange one. It was after that album, I was like, this is really tight. And then my homie, this was after White Iverson, but before Post Malone was like, we saw Post Malone at like 2 p.m. on like a side tent type shit. Like he had the hit, but it was like nothing else. And my homie's like, yo, come to this Post Malone show. And I was like, whatever. But it was This is when Post Malone was still black. And Post Malone, I'll stand by it. Black Post Malone, one of the best to ever do it. So I'm just naming off bands I saw at this music festival. And I'll continue, because what did I say after that? Oh, yeah, Big Grams. For those of you who don't remember or don't know, Big Boy from Outkast and the the indie duo Fantagram combined and put out an album and toured as Big Grams for a while. And that was sick. Okay. I just realized, I was like, I'm not just going to keep reading off all the bands I saw. What is the point of that? I don't know. I also really enjoyed that. So that was my 2016. I would love to spin the block on 2016 being the last good year for music, but I think when Zai comes on next time, I think I want to talk to him about that, because we love to dive into some nostalgia, and I also really want to talk about this new A$AP Rocky album. Definitely going to talk about the new A$AP Rocky album next week, but if you haven't already, I would check it out. I like it a lot, and it's like the first... I'm such a fan of hip-hop. Excuse me, as you can tell, there's not an episode that goes by where I'm not waxing poetic about the hip-hop of my youth for several minutes. But this, I don't know. I think a reason I'm clinging to it, I realize, is because it feels like one of the last vestiges of what I remember hip-hop to be during kind of this era I'm talking about. So that's not to say the sound is like back in time. I just miss when rappers put out albums that people cared about, to be honest with you. I don't really think rappers have that much cultural clout anymore, and thus I think they know that. So like, I'm just going to put out this song or this album and pretend like I don't care, because it's not going to sell really well either way. And at least if I pretend like I don't care, then it can't hurt my feelings. You know, defense mechanisms and shit. Was there anything else I wanted to get to about 2016? Okay. So, this is just a quick... The last thing I remember about 2016, because of the photos, during St. Patrick's Day, I had a tradition when I was younger and just in college, drinking age, where I liked to, when I went out, I liked to try and get a shirt from somebody. What that means is often I would see someone with a comparable shirt. We would both be drunk. I'd say, what if we traded shirts right now? And like the first time, it was like an authentic, like, wouldn't that be crazy? And then like, it got kind of predatory. I'd be like, that's a nice shirt, and the guy looks pretty drunk. I think I could... I could convince him to switch shirts with me. But the St. Patrick's Day that year was the climax, or the peak of my trading shirts days, because it was two day over the course of 2 days. I think I traded my shirt. I started at a Goodwill T-shirt that said like Happy St. Patrick's Day with like a Budweiser logo, and I started with that in Georgia, and the next evening, or by the end of the weekend in South Carolina, I had upgraded that to a Kevin Garnett Boston Celtics like alternate jersey, like the green one with like the gold trim. And I thought, because I was so drunk, I'll be real with y'all, I remember trading the first shirt, and the last couple shirts, I was just drunk walking through the streets of St. Patrick's Day in Columbia, South Carolina, willy-nilly. And I remember waking up with a jersey and being like, holy shit, like I really, like I started with a Goodwill shirt, and I got like a real NBA jersey. And I was like really proud of myself. And then I went and checked my bank account and saw that I had withdrawn $80 at some point in the day. So what I think happened is I saw a guy with that jersey. And I was like, you want to trade shirts with me? And he was like, no. And I was like, I'll give you $80 for it. So I bought a shirt, and then as soon as, because my friends were like, okay, that's a nice jersey, a nice NBA jersey is more than $80. You paid $80 for more than likely a fake jersey. And I was like, hey man, I already didn't feel good about it. Like so that's just something I can't really bring it back as a sober person and a person who is. Maybe I will bring it back. Maybe this is a challenge. If you're still out there drinking, and this is obviously a dude or I mean, a male, whatever, you know what I mean. You can't do this if you have tits, is what I'm saying. I mean, you can. You can. I think I did trade one with I think the first one I did trade with a girl. So it's more practical if you're not popping off your shirt with a bra, because you're going to be like, I'm just saying, there's clearly a demographic that this is a more accessible task to. But the newest challenge, because we're always launching a challenge, is the Creme World Podcast Shirt Trade Challenge 2026. Throwback Thursday 2016. Hashtag, oh shit, Trump just got elected challenge, where you trade, you go to a bar, yeah, you see someone with a nice shirt, you say, hey, let's trade shirts, and then you do it, and then you text me, and you tell me, and I'll send you $20. How about that? If one person, I'll do it. Not more than once. I will do it one time. And this offer is good forever. So if in 10 years you find this, and you're like, I'm down on my luck, I need a Twinski, go out to the bar, don't buy anything, just find someone, trade shirts with them, boom, hit me up. If no one else has done it, I'll give you a Twinski. This has been an illustrious decade back review 2026. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe. Please like this. Please share it. Please drink some water. Call a black person. Tell them MLK was killed by the FBI. Well, don't tell them that. Tell them you know that in solidarity. Don't brag. Don't call a black person and be like, yeah, bro, we fucking got his ass. That'll be the challenge next year or next episode maybe. I'm your host, Creme. The intro music's playing now. I'm just gonna fade into it.